What's up, guys? Little dance break. Where you at today, Nathan?
The border between South Korea and North Korea.
Nice. The DMZ.
We made it.
Is that pretty safe right there for you?
Yeah, it's probably safer than my house.
If the DMZ is safer than your house, that's scary.
Okay, we'll just go to Reagan.
Wow, you just went to Reagan. Nice. You know, I downloaded a bunch of Zoom ones, but they're at my house, and they're interesting. I had the Millennium Falcon, and a couple others. You know. Yay! What's up, guys? I'll let people get situated. Today we're going to do the Funpack, and then those worksheets. So basically, we're going to do the Funpack. I'm just going to guide you through it, make sure you understand it, teach as I go, and then if you have any questions on the quiz, they probably will be answered by doing this Funpack. You have until tomorrow night to do that, and we'll talk about the test on Monday, how I want you guys to do it. So hopefully we'll get a lot of people listening. Maria, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. What happens if everybody turns their mic on and we say hello? I just want to hear how it sounds. I just want to hear if you guys got the Milena in the house. Sarah's connecting. I see Annie here. Colby. Lucas. Aisling's here. All right. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much showing up. There was no question that these are encouraged, but you know I don't grade you for getting on Zoom, right? Everyone clicks off all of a sudden. Really? But does it help you that I do these live Zoom sessions?
Yeah.
Look, Nathan's back in the classroom. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Shelton. I appreciate that, man. I can always count on you for that positive encouragement as well.
You got it, Mr. Desmarais.
What I'm talking about, man. It's a beautiful thing. So, and then I record these. I put them on YouTube. Is anybody even trying to go back and see one of my YouTube funds?
No.
Well, that's not encouraging, Shelton.
I went back. I looked at some.
Now I know a lot of you go back just to see what did I look like. You know, what was Nathan doing? But hopefully you go back, and hopefully your neighbors and your classmates will, not your neighbors, but your classmates will. We're in the Lego movie now. Hold up. If we're talking Legos, you know, I'm right here, man. She's ready. She's got tons of cupcakes. Not a good time to go into business for her. They have had a lot of shutdowns. Oh, nice. They've had a lot of shutdowns at the old cupcake factory and the hair salon. You know, surprisingly, they're saying they're not doing haircuts, but I think she's doing a lot of home visits. So anyway, all right, let's get started. Oh, turned over her cupcake cart. That wasn't good. All right, let's get started. And I am going to, let's see, share my screen. Bam. All right, so we're there. Let me make this smaller here. All right, so I appreciate any of your feedback as you guys are jumping in here. If you have questions, just let me know. The first thing I want to do is go to my sphere. I don't know why that didn't. Can you see my screen, Nathan? All right. So yesterday, or a couple days ago, we started talking about the Phillips curve. And I have your long run, your aggregate demand, aggregate supply curve on this side, and I have your Phillips curve here. And what I want to highlight, which is already highlighted, is the unemployment. So if we wanted to find unemployment just on our aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph, well, we know a recessionary gap is to the left. We're at full employment right here, which is between 4 and 6%. Sometimes they just tell you what it is. But unemployment would be to the left. We'd shade any of this area in because this is where people are losing their job. And why are they losing their job? Where we're decreasing our GDP. We're decreasing output, quantity. We don't need people, kind of like my cupcake factory over here. She doesn't need anybody. And so those people have been fired, so unemployment is increasing. So this is unemployment on this thing. And remember, we also have a couple other graphs that show it. Our PPC curve, unemployment would be inside. We have our business cycle. Unemployment is obviously below down there, okay? So where you have a peak and then you have your troughs, your expansions were growing, your contractions were going to the left, okay? So just wanted to make sure you understood where unemployment was on this graph. So when we do the Phillips curve, again, we have the long vertical line, that's full employment, the natural rate of unemployment. And then we also have unemployment increasing as we go to the right. So unemployment is this shaded area here. And remember, I've said this to you. I want you to think Justin Timberlake. All right, why? Mirrors. I should put that song on, Just Dance, but probably will after I'm done. But look, so unemployment is to the left on the aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph, and it is to the right on the Phillips curve. So they're mirror images of each other. It is always, when you solve Phillips curve problems, it is almost always better to go back to your aggregate demand graph and show what's happening there, because you understand that, and then go and plot those points on the Phillips curve. And again, use your axes. If unemployment is increasing, well then that's over here. We're increasing unemployment to the right. If unemployment's increasing here, well, this was a 5%, and this may be 8%, okay? So that is the Phillips curve. So now let's practice this. Let's actually go into your Funpack and let's practice some of these problems. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of go fast and you guys can follow through. Use chart to summarize how fiscal policy, which is taxes and spending, monetary policy, which is discount rate, reserve requirement, and open market operations, the buying and selling of bonds, securities, can close negative and positive output gaps. All right. So just to make sure we're on the same page, let me just see something. All right, let's just do this one. Okay. Just want to make sure they weren't writing in or doing other stuff. Where is my spear? Didn't I just open my spear? Can you see this desktop still? Okay. This is where all that editing comes in, the techniques. There it is, bam. All right, we're good. So fiscal policy, if we're in a negative output gap, meaning a recessionary gap, then what do we need to do to government spending? We need to increase government spending. What do we need to do to taxes? We need to put more money in people's pockets, so we need to lower taxes. So that's fiscal policy. What if we're in a positive output gap? And again, negative means a recessionary gap. Positive means inflation. Well, now we're going to take the same two fiscal policy tools, government spending. We're going to decrease government spending. And for taxes, we would increase taxes. So for fiscal policy, we're increasing taxes. And I know maybe some of this is a review for you, but it's always good to review. I mean, it's always good to do it. I also put a question on the quiz, the Skyward Online quiz, and it had to deal with, lo and behold, a fiscal policy that the government just did. And that's all the stimulus checks. all the stimulus checks that they just sent to all of us, hopefully, I keep checking, that is because we're in a recession per se, and they want to avoid it, and they want to increase government spending. So it is a fiscal policy. Government stimulus, government spending is a fiscal policy. Now we can even go one step further. And Nathan, who's a superstar, Maria, I see you right here. Let's do it. What type of spending is that? Well, it's a transfer payment, right? It's a transfer payment. It's going directly to us, which means we're going to save some of it, and then we'll spend the rest. So it's going to be that one less multiplier. So let's say our spending, our MPC right now is 90%, because shoot, we're spending everything. Then 1 over what we save, 1 over 0.10 would be, the multiplier would be 10. But in this case, because it is a transfer, then it's 9, okay? Does that make sense, Maria? Give me a heads up, or Nathan. You guys are my feedback right now, man, so cool, I like it. We'll play this on YouTube, I'll show that. All right, monetary policy, negative output gap, recessionary gap. What are some things that we can do? Well, we can lower the discount rate. That's feds to other banks. We can lower, I say we, the Fed, we can lower the required reserve. That'll allow banks to lend out more of their excess reserves and also increase the money multiplier. And then we can, or the Fed can buy bonds, all right? So those are your answers for monetary policy. This is a great review. And in fact, I put some of those questions on your test, all right? Now, for a positive output gap, we're in an inflation, we want to make money less available. So we want to raise the discount rate. So now the interest rate that feds will charge other banks is going to increase, which is going to disincentivize banks to borrow money, as much money. We want to raise the required reserve. So instead of banks having to put 10%, now you need to put 30% away. So obviously their excess reserves are going to decrease, the money multiplier is going to decrease. And then the sell bonds. Remember, you need to know all of these, but open market operations, those are the two most important ones. So recession, they buy bonds. Fed buys bonds. In an inflationary gap, the Fed sells bonds. Remember, if the Fed is selling a bond, if they're selling a bond, I know it's not a bond, so I'll show it. But let's say this is a bond right here. If the Fed, in fact, let's just make it a verified a federal bond, okay, there we go. Right, if the Fed is selling bonds, then I'm gonna take my money out of my bank. I'm gonna take my money out of my bank, take it out of my my excess reserves. It's gonna go out of my bank. That's decreasing my excess reserves. Now I don't have as much money because the Fed is selling me this bond. So now I have this in my bank instead of the money. You see how the excess reserves went down? So, all right, that was impromptu. All right, no policy, we're playing baseball. If there's not a fiscal policy and not a monetary policy, then we're playing baseball. Now remember too, both of these always move aggregate demand. Fiscal policy and monetary policy always move aggregate demand. We can call this expansionary. I'm just giving you other words. Easy money, all right? Positive output gap, then we want to contract the economy. So we call it contractionary or tight money. Always have that parent that is easy with the wallet and the one that's tight with the wallet. So think of tight money policy, you're not getting that money, all right? Contractionary. Okay. For no policy, what's going to happen? Well, let's go here. If we're at let's go here. Point A, so we're in a negative output gap. This is recession, right? If there's any type of monetary or fiscal policy, it's going to move AD from point A to point B. It's going to shift that line. That's if there's a policy. Fiscal or monetary, the goal for an expansion is to move AD to the right, to close that gap. But if there's no policy, well, then what's going to happen? So baseball, we're at third base right here. So you know we're trying to go here. But the reason why wages and are lowered, people are willing to take less money. Think of all the people that have been laid off. Let's say from 50,000 or 40,000 a year jobs or 60,000 a year dollar a year jobs. Would they be willing to take a $35,000 a year job right now? Absolutely. Maybe they're not going on vacations, but they're going to pay their essentials, their needs. So they take lower wages. Because of those lower wages, the wages decrease. Now businesses will be able to supply more. So this line would end up shifting to down here. So no policy, aggregate supply will shift right. And the reason why is there's lower wages, which means lower costs. Okay. So this says, because I'm looking at it and you probably couldn't see it, no policy, aggregate supply will shift right. Why? There's lower wages, lower cost. I'll make it nicer over here. Now, what if we're at point C in an inflationary gap and there's no policy? Remember, if there's a policy, it's to contract. It's to move aggregate demand only with the policy, shift it to the left to close the gap. But if there's no policy, then now we have increased wages. We have increased cost. That hurts businesses. Remember, input cost hurts business. So now aggregate supply will shift to the left. We're at first base. If this is home, first base, we're going to shift to second. No policy, we're going baseball. Okay, just going to go around the diamond. But now we're in an inflationary gap. C will shift to the left. So what happens here? Aggregate supply will shift left. All right. Why? There's an increased wages, increased costs. All right. I just thought that was important to go over that box with you because it's a great review. That's kind of what Unit 5 is. It's all about the long run adjustments. So, all right. So now let's actually do some of these problems too. I know you have this on the answers on your Thinkific, but this is a great one to graph. I just kind of did this on your test. So let's do this one. Draw the short run and long run Phillips curve and plot the following values. Remember, our AP exam is going to be, well, it's not going to be graphing, but you're going to have to be able to interpret graphs. I've already put this on your AP exam info /review, and it is all these from Unit 1, Unit 2. It has the scoring guidelines. If you ever just click the link, you can get it. We're going to start doing this on Monday. We'll start going through these. You guys will answer them, and then we'll come together. It's probably better for you to practice before we actually do them. So I'll say let's do Unit 1 today, or these ones on Unit 1. All right? So anyway, just throwing that out at you, but this is a great example. So let's do this thing, Phillips curve. We have to label it. Well, we're talking about inflation. And I say inflation, we should say inflation rate. That's okay. And then the unemployment rate. Inflation and the unemployment rate. Okay, we have long run Phillips curve. Make sure you're putting LRPC. And then we have the natural rate of unemployment. I think the other day I mentioned to you, they can call it NIRO or NIRU, non-accelerating interest rate of unemployment. You're going to see in the long run, everything goes back to vertical, everything goes back to natural. And then we have our short run. So that's what the graph looks like. Now we need to plot these points. Expected inflation, that would be right here at equilibrium. This line is what we expect to happen. Where it actually is depends on the information they give us. So let's go ahead and plot what we know is expected. They're saying 2% at the natural rate. And they're telling us, oh, look at that. The natural rate is 5%. So they're even telling us, I don't leave much room, do I? All right. The natural rate is 5%. So we have this plot and we have this one. Unemployment is 3%. That means more and more people are working because we're lower than the actual natural rate. So 3% would be on the aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph. More and more people are working. There's more and more output. So 3% would be to the right. So we're opposite unemployment. That's what. Oof. Over here, natural rate's 5%. More and more people are working. Well, it tells you straight up the unemployment rate is what, 3%? So 3% would be over here to the left. Why? Because we're not in unemployment anymore. More and more people are working. So, wow, that was freaky. So let's do it again. Unemployment rate is 3%. So the unemployment rate is less than this. And inflation, so this would be 3% unemployment, which is below the natural rate, 3%. And then the inflation rate, this was the question on the test. I said, is the actual inflation rate, I said, is it higher, lower, or at the same thing? So I think ours was over here. So it would have been this point because unemployment was above the natural rate. So your answer on the Skyward Online quiz would have said the actual inflation rate, where it actually is below the expected rate. In this case, the actual rate is above the expected, and we would need to put 7% here. All right, averted that crisis. This is where I need your feedback. I need to hear groans in the classroom. I was just looking at terror on Maria's face, like, what are you doing? I thought I understood this, sir. So again, 2% is the expected inflation rate. That's right there at equilibrium. So basically, this equilibrium point would be 2% inflation, 5% natural rate. They give us the scenario where unemployment is lower. It's only 3%. And therefore, the inflation rate would have to be up here. Remember, we're going to stay on this line. We're going to stay on this line. We're going to stay on that line. All right. Let's go to, I'm trying to see if there's any. Are we feeling good about the Phillips curve? I mean, do you want me to do some more on it? You want me to do this one? Let me get a consensus. Let me see all my people on video. There's only 2. So who would like me to do this next problem and show all the points?
I would.
Yes, Shelby?
Yes.
All right, that's it. Do I have any no's? Well, you know what, if it's a no, you can go get a Twinkie and get some Captain Crunch. All right, so let's do this bad boy. Good choice. Gotta get my composure. I was weird. It's when you just want to rush through things. Don't ever rush. All right, draw the short run and long run Phillips curve. Label points A, B, and C based on the changes in the aggregate demand. Okay, so this is our. Move up to this. I'll make this go away. All right, so this is our aggregate demand, aggregate supply curve. We got long run. We have full employment. We got price level, we have our GDP, and then they've got certain points. So we know B is full employment, C is an inflationary gap, A is a recessionary gap. So what do these points look like on our Phillips curve? So we're going to put long run Phillips curve. They're saying B is right here. I'm not going to be so crazy. Just trying to get, you don't have to be this exact. I'm just trying to redeem myself here. All right. I guess I should use the ruler to do this. Sir, does it have to be straight? No, it can be curved. All right. You do that. All right. So let's label these points. Well, point B is obviously going to be at full employment. Okay. And then let's go to point C. So what do we know about point C, y'all? It's higher price level. So we have inflation. And we also know it's above B. So we know we're going to go above B. And then we have increased output. So we have more people working. So unemployment is decreased. Why don't we just label our dang graph? Inflation rate, unemployment. All right, so unemployment rate. We know because we're at point C, more people are working, there's greater output, GDP is increased, so more people are working. So unemployment is going to decrease. Obviously, that would be to the left. So point C would be right here on your Phillips curve. And again, it's a mirror image. It's a mirror image. I mean, ta-da. What about point A? Well, point A, we're in a recessionary gap. The inflation has decreased. Now we're going to be below point B. And then more people are out of a job now. So unemployment has increased. We've decreased production, decreased output. So where is that over here? Well, inflation dropping is right here. And then unemployment. So it would be in this area, right? Now, remember I told you this last time, let's just reiterate it. If there's shifts in aggregate demand, it causes movement along the short run Phillips curve. You see that? Any shifts in aggregate demand, and again, what moves aggregate demand? Fiscal policy and monetary policy. If there is that, okay. It could also, I guess, be your consumers' confidence or something else. Just any reason there's a shift in aggregate demand, it is movement along the SRPC. All right. Now we're going to see what happens when there's shifts to the aggregate supply. Now we're going to see what's going to happen when there's shifts to the aggregate supply. So draw a short run and long run Phillips curve, show the result of a negative supply shock on both graphs. So again, you can label, I'm just going to put inflation rate here. I'm going to put unemployment. All right, we got long run. And I'm just going to freehand it. All right, so we're here at point A. If there is a negative shock to our aggregate demand, aggregate supply, remember your shifters for supply are RAP. So either resources decrease or production or technology, something happens, or there's an action by the government that regulations or treaties, then aggregate supply is going to shift to the left. So when aggregate supply shifts to the left, that is a negative supply shock. We also call that, just throw out other review terms, cost push inflation. The cost of business are pushing up the price level. So now, what has resulted? Inflation has increased and unemployment has increased. We're at this point right here. Let's label this point to tell us. Good. Let's label it point B. So where is this on this graph? Well, where is high inflation and more unemployment? Well, higher inflation would be above this point A, and more unemployment would be to the right, right? Unemployment is increasing, so it would be over here. So the short run Phillips curve is going to mirror it. So if this shifted to the left, then short run is going to shift up to the right. and this would be SRPC1. So now this would be point B. Did we show an increase in price level? Let's say the inflation rate was 3% here. Yes, so we showed an increase in inflation. If this was 5% and now we're at 7%, hey, now I finally got my 7% in there. So point B would represent higher prices, higher inflation, and increased unemployment. And that would be the mirror image. Wow, now that I'm looking at it. But the mirror image of this point, we went from there. So what does that tell us? Well, anytime we have a shift of aggregate supply, then we have a shift of the short run Phillips curve. And I guess they want me to put left, right? So when the SRS curve shifts to the left, then the SRPC curve shifts to the right. Here's a great question. Is there any shift in the long run? Well, sir, this will go back, this will go back. Well, no, this isn't the money supply, so it's not going to increase or decrease. This, in the long run, there's no change in LRPC. Why? Because the natural rate of unemployment always stays the natural rate of unemployment. So it's kind of like the classical theory. We'll go over that, where they believed all those changes just resulted in differences in price and inflation, okay? So when we did this no policy, we would end right back on the long run. Remember up here, Keynes said in the long run, we're all dead. He didn't even think there was a long run or that we'd die before we got to it. So in this case, long run serves that same purpose. All right, let's do one of these in your Funpack. So let's do this one, 32.3, and then I'll do one of these, and then we'll be done, all right? But hopefully this will help you, and hopefully if you'll be able to really be able to break this stuff down, because we're about to do the exact same thing. Assume an economy is in long-run equilibrium. So draw a correct label graph of aggregate demand and supply of this economy. So we're going to put price level here, real GDP here, long run aggregate supply. Again, make sure you know what graph you're doing. In this case, long run aggregate supply. This would be aggregate demand, and we're at, it says long run equilibrium. If they'd have said below, or, you know, our output is below the natural rate, then we'd have been over in a recessionary gap. In this case, we're, right. And then, because watch this, see, this is all part of master teaching. We are drawing the exact same graph for the money market, aren't we? Nominal interest rate. So guess what? I actually get to put my interest rate. The money supply and the money demand, the quantity of money. Wow, sir. So a little teaching tip. There's only 3 graphs that have this long run. Aggregate demand, aggregate supply, the money supply, and the Phillips curve. Now let's go back. So draw a correct label graph of equilibrium in the money market. Done. On your graph on part B, show what happens to the money market in the short run if the central bank decreases the money supply. Decrease, we know that is always a shifting to the left. So they're going to decrease the money supply. We could just put quantity of money 1 and quantity of money 2. Sometimes they give you numbers, so 300 to 240 or whatever. What is going to happen to the interest rate? The interest rate is going to increase. All right, interest rate is going to increase. Remember, this is contractionary monetary policy. You do this by selling bonds, raising the discount rate, raising the reserve requirement. And what happens is by decreasing the money supply, now you have excess demand. You have more demand than supply, because now the supply is over here. So now the interest rate's going to have to rise. So we're at this point. On your graph in part A, show what happens to the macro economy in the short run if the central bank decreases the money supply. All right, the whole reason to decrease the money supply, all right, so if you decrease the money supply, the whole reason is to raise interest rates. And the whole reason to raise interest rates is to decrease consumers and businesses from borrowing, which is going to decrease aggregate demand. So in this case, you decrease the money supply, aggregate demand is going to shift to the left, it's going to decrease. So now that is our new equilibrium point. And that happens in the short run. This is short run equilibrium. This is a recessionary gap. What has happened? GDP is decreased. Price level has decreased. Unemployment has increased. So normally you wouldn't do it at a full employment because you would put us in a recession. They actually did this in the 80s trying to get rid of inflation, but it caused more unemployment. But usually you do it in an inflationary gap. So don't be afraid to follow instructions. If they tell you you're in full employment, if they even told you you're in a recessionary gap, and for whatever reason, the monetary policy does this, yeah, it's going to shift back to the left. It's going to shift to the left. I mean, we could get worse. So just follow your policies. All right, and then on both graphs, show what will happen in the long run. Well, we know we're at third base. We know wages have dropped, costs have dropped. In the long run, with no policy, long run is no policy, aggregate supply is going to shift to the right, and we're going to go back to the natural rate, and we'll just have lower prices. All right. Yeah, I mean, long run, this thing will just adjust up here. Now, what's interesting, this is going to be a review, so I'm not going to get into it. I was going to say the money supply can always change. They can always increase, decrease. In the vulnerable funds market, if we have crowding out by the government, real interest rate, quantity of loans, supply of loans, demand for loans. If we have crowding out by the government, let's say the government borrows money right here, and it raises the interest rate, remember the monetary policy is they can always just increase the monetary policy to lower it, to get it back to where they want. All right. Let's do one more. Let's do this bad boy. And then all you have left for your Funpack, guys, is this one. All you have is the exact thing. Let's do one more. What time is it?
43.
43. Okay. Are we good so far? You guys all right? All right. I apologize. I'm so excited doing this stuff. All right, here we go. Price level. Unemployment rate is 10% and CPI is increasing at 2%. So right off the bat, our unemployment is above natural rate. Would this be an inflationary gap or recessionary gap? I can hear your brain. So I think you're all saying because it's higher than the natural rate, we're in a recession. And remember, the Phillips curve is also saying if you have high unemployment, you usually have low inflation, which brings me back to this point right here. Where were we at? On the front page of your Funpack, we had a negative supply shock, and we ended up having high inflation and high unemployment. Remember, this is called stagflation. That is a very, very bad thing to have stagflation, all right? Which is long run, which is high unemployment and high inflation.
Wait, Mr. Desmarais?
Talk to me.
Okay, I was gonna ask, can anything change the natural rate of unemployment, or does it always stay the same?
It varies by country, but in our country, what we found is it's between 4 and 6%. So no, technically nothing will change that. Remember, you can increase long run aggregate supply. Let's say we increase productivity, technology, we can shift long run to the right This whole line can shift. The natural rate still stays the same. It's still 4 to 6%.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
You got it. All right, so now let's do this one. So we're at 10%. So let's go ahead and draw our graphs. They already, thank God, did everything. We have price level, we have real GDP, we have the interest rate, we have loanable funds, we have the interest rate and the quantity of money. So here's 3 graphs we have to know how to draw. So let's do our aggregate demand, aggregate supply. So long run aggregate supply, YF. It says we're in 10%, which means we're over here to the left. So we know we're in a recessionary gap. All right. So 10% unemployment. And they say the consumer price index is increasing at 2%. So it's low inflation. We don't know what the inflation rate is. It says it's increasing it to a 2% rate. So let's just put price level 1. All right, then we have to draw our loanable funds, which is just supply, the lenders. Demand is the borrowers. You don't have to put your L and B. All right, and then we have whatever interest rate. This is the real interest rate. I wish they'd have put that. And then just quantity of loans. Well, they did it. Okay, it's just mine. And then let's draw our money market. So we have this money supply. We have money demand. And again, whatever the nominal interest rate is, this would be nominal. Nominal is the actual interest rate. Real is when you subtract inflation from the nominal, you get the real. Remember the Fisher effect, it'll always stay the same because they'll just adjust the nominal. All right, so what is happening here? The federal government cuts personal income taxes and increases its spending. Remember, it can do one policy. It can do both fiscal policies. It can increase spending and cut taxes. It can do fiscal policy and monetary policy. So sometimes in a jam, they try to do all of it. All right. Oh, wow. And they are. There we go. So this right here is fiscal policy. And then the Fed, of course, will buy bonds. This is monetary policy. So what does that look like? Well, we're in a recession. So if the Fed cuts personal income taxes and increases its spending, it's going to put more money in people's pockets, right? And it's going to increase government spending. So we know aggregate demand is going to eventually shift to the right. So we know price level is going to increase. We know real GDP is going to increase. It's going to go from here to here. Where did the government get this money? How did it increase its spending? Well, it's going to borrow money in the loanable funds market. So in this case, the real interest rate is going to increase. And if the Fed is buying bonds, then what's happening to the monetary supply? Well, that's going to increase as well, which is going to put us at this lower interest rate. So does everyone hopefully understand how we put all 3 of these things together? We're in a recessionary gap. We labeled it correctly. We're in a recessionary gap. They do fiscal policy. They cut income taxes, increase in spending. So now we're going to get a shift of AD to the right. The government had to borrow money. It's in a deficit. So they would borrow money out of the loanable funds. That would increase the real interest rate. And this is also known, just because we're always reviewing, crowding out. Because if businesses, C&I wanted money, they kind of got boxed out, crowded out by the government. Now the real interest rate goes up, they don't want it. All right. But that being said, the federal government borrows money to increase its spending in the loanable funds market, that increases. And then the Fed buys, making the money supply bigger. And that lowers interest rate. And again, we've done this before. A lower interest rate is going to, let's just do it again. Lower interest rate is going to increase investment demand by consumers and investors, which is going to increase aggregate demand, right? So now watch how easy it is to answer these questions. What happens to real GDP? Well, it went from here to here. So it shifted to the right, it increased. What happened to the price level? It was here and it moved up, right? So the price level increased. What happened to unemployment? Well, we were at 10%. We increased GDP, more and more people are working, so the unemployment decreased. I guess we got to explain them. Real GDP, our output increased, more workers needed. Just, wow. I'm answering everything at the same time. All right, our output increased. AD shifted right. I don't know how else you would say it. AD shifted right. There's more production. All right, the price level, when AD shifts right, the price level increases. That's what happened. And then unemployment, because output increased, our real GDP. Remember, I always use output just to make sure you know it's a quantity kind of thing. Because real GDP increased, more workers are needed. More workers are needed. Wow. So that explains it. Real GDP shifted to the right, more aggregate demand, more production. Already explained it. Okay, let me flip it over because I think there's a few on the back. Interest rates. Well, what happens to interest rates? This is crazy. Here in the loanable funds market, interest rates increased. But in the money supply, interest rates decreased. So we don't know for that very reason. Loanable funds, interest rate increased, but in the money supply, interest rate decreased. It's indeterminate. And because investment is, and this is right off their answers, so I'm just gonna give it to you. Because investment is dependent upon interest rates, and you have them increasing here and decreasing here, again, it is indeterminate. Indeterminate. I would argue they would increase, right? Investment would increase because, you know, by the money supply increasing, you're going to kind of balance off what happened here. So I would say they would tend to increase, but at the same time, it's indeterminate because, you know, consumer and investment spending is interest sensitive. Tori, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to write that whole word. All right. So indeterminate. Why? Because consumer and investment spending is interest sensitive. So it's indeterminate. All right. And then you do the exact same thing here. Unemployment rate is 6% and CPI is increasing at 9%. So that's right almost at the natural rate. Actually, yeah, but that's your key. Inflation is 9%. So graph that one. Make sure you do all your changes. It's going to be a contractionary. They're going to try to lower inflation. Remember, we want 2% inflation. That will take you to the end of your Funpack, okay? The rest of this that we didn't do, it's kind of a review. Quantity theory, money supply times velocity equals the price times quantity, which is basically nominal GDP. So we did this when we went to Zimbabwe. This was kind of there, so. All right, that's your Funpack. That'll take care of that unit. And then let's get back to me. Yay. So let me just guide you through a couple things. One, I opened up your, I feel like I always have to do this. There it is. Your AP classroom. So I've opened up your progress check and your FRQs. Please try those. It gives me good feedback, and it is a great way for you to actually practice these questions on your own. And you get feedback. You get the answers, you get explanations, and it's from AP. So go figure. Remember, AP is doing live seminars as well. So I know you love me and you just get all your information from me. That being said, it's okay to go and do these AP live seminars. I'll try posting them. I'm going to watch them. I think Jacob Clifford is going to have a live streaming seminar coming up. So get as much as you can. Do it on your, do it on your time. You got the comforts of your home. Get a little Diet Dr. Pepper. Get, make your sandwiches, peanut butter, jelly. Do that, or whatever you do. All right. The other thing is our tests. Okay. So here's the plan. Group Unit 5, we always do we started last year, a group test. So if you're in here, you would get with up to 4 people, you'd all have a test, and you would submit one test. So I want to give you that same option. The way I'm thinking is I will send links out. Well, excuse me, I'll just send a link out on my Google Classroom. You'll click on that, but then feel free, and please let me know that you're Zooming with up to 6 people. All right. Now, if there's someone, sir, can we Zoom with 38 people? No, because no one's going to talk, right? I don't want you to Zoom with all of those people. I'm saying up to 6 because I know there's always going to be that, well, there's a 5th one and then they have a friend. I've even had people ask me, can they go with Mr. Harris's class and pull some people? Yes, you can. Talk to Mr. Harris about that. We don't care. Get together, work over this test. We're trying to give you just, a little more incentive. Sir, can I do it completely by myself? Yeah, feel free. If you want to do it by yourself, feel free. Zooming is very safe, all right? Make sure no one else has it. What you need to do is you can just put a Zoom and get your friends to log on. Somebody will be in charge of the screen, and you just go through the test, okay? Does that make sense? It has never been done in the history of ever with my class. So it is new ground. But I want you to take this Unit 5 test. It's going to be released on 10 o'clock on Monday, which is an even numbered day. It's your social studies tutoring time. Some people had presentations, and I think you moved them, so just let me know if there's any conflicts. Communication is the key. It's always the key. Let us know what's going on. And then Zoom with as many people you want. What I'm thinking is I will try to add a little prompt, and not try, I will, where you tell me who's taking the test with you, okay? The other thing is I'm thinking everyone will open the test, and it will all just be in for your link, for your group. It will go along the same questions, so you can do that. All right. So we may do a practice Zoom. I don't know. I may try. I don't know. But that's the plan. Okay, guys? Yes? All right. Again, there is nothing better than being able to see you guys and have this opportunity. So I appreciate you showing up every day. I really do. You're knocking it out. I mean, this is the last unit. We're done. After this test, we're just going to do review. All right? So we can shut that down a little bit on some aspects. Somebody's at the gas station. Haley, what are you doing? Nice. Don't use your phone next to a pump.
We're driving to Corpus.
You're driving to Corpus? Heck yeah.
Yeah, we have condos down there and they flooded. The condos flooded,
good.
so we have to go fix
My
it.
God. Oh man. Do not be that person that's on the beach wearing a mask. That's just weird. It's okay to go swimming without a mask, all right?
Oh no.
So I don't know how far the water is. All right, guys. Well, listen, if you have any questions, private comment me, email me. Again, your AP classroom. We pretty much did all your Funpack. There's some extra, let's do this. There is some extra, where am I? Aha. There's some extra PowerPoints that I put up there just because Unit 5 starts getting into just different theories, rational expectations theory and all this. And I put a Phillips curve cheat sheet. I don't know if y'all saw that. Just kind of the movement along the curve or the shifts. I also put in your I put a better PowerPoint curve. This is the Jacob Clifford one. So if you still have questions, answer that one or go through that one. And then, oh, for trying to figure out, no. I put a whole bunch of PowerPoints. That's what I'm trying to find. You know what? This is the best way to do this. Go to classwork and go to Unit 5 course materials. There you go. So I put all of your information right here, your agenda, your Funpack. I put both lectures, and then I put some more PowerPoints. So if you just want to flow through those, crowding out, public economy. All right. And then I have your AP exam info. So hopefully everybody has done this. You've clicked on that link and said whether you have technology or not. And then for the format, I've also put the format. I put 2 images. I put our released questions. There's a study session up there. There's an AP macro guide. There's a review. And then I put some other videos. So, and along with your Think IFIC, his ultimate review video too. So, did you guys see my little Millennium Falcon? I won't play it for you. Wow. I guess I am playing it for you. Who is this guy? Wow. That's just weird, sir. All right. So anyway, watch your stuff, enjoy it. Let me know what we need to do. Again, Monday, we will do the test. We're going to Zoom it. I'm going to try to practice a little bit, but just kind of getting a list. Again, there's no pressure. If you don't want to Zoom with somebody, don't Zoom. But again, try to keep it under 6. I just think that'll be more workable. Do your online quiz. Do your online quiz. Do it right now. Let's go. Okay. Any other questions?
Have you talked to the other teachers about when we're going to pick up the packets or how we're going to do that?
I've tried to, and I'm not getting much feedback from that. I'm going to tell you right now, let's just plan on next week. I gotta run to Arizona State and get my son's stuff because he left to come home. And now they're saying, hey, you got to come and pick up all this stuff. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So either way, it doesn't matter. I'll still be here. But what I'm thinking, I have, again, these boxes. You guys can see that have all your stuff in them by period, and even first semester. I'm thinking if I just go out to the curve and I open it up, that we can do it. So I'll talk to Ms. Shelton. I'll find out how I can get your reviews to you, and then I'll post that, okay? Because you guys deserve it. Awesome. You did a great job. Any other questions? We're good? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Love seeing you.
Bye.
We'll see you. Have a great day. I love doing it. They're awesome. Yeah. Oh, I'm still on.